Hey everyone, I'm Ron Swallow, and welcome to Reboot Rewind. This is the official after show for Reboot It, where we go back and review our arguments and creative decisions from past episodes. Plus, we respond to your comments. Today, we have almost the full crew here because Billy Business is still playing super dad to his new baby. But you cannot go wrong with Ed Greer.
Hey.
And producer Bill.
Hey, we are here.
And today we're revisiting one of our most watched, most upvoted episodes of all time, and also our third rebooted DC franchise on the path to Justice League, the Reboot It cut.
Yeah, baby.
The Reboot It cut.
That's right, you guys. Get excited for Reboot It Season 3. But first, let's talk Superman.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're pretty excited. This episode featured a ton of debate and disagreement from everyone, but probably most heated from Ed and Bill. What? We'll get into a lot of the details, but big picture, now that we're a few months past it, how do you guys feel about this episode in general?
I defer to Bill.
You're going to defer to me. I mean, you know, it's weird. I felt really good coming out of the episode, and on a rewatch, I don't know if it's my favorite. I don't know. And I'll tell you why. It's something we were just talking about off the air. I feel like while we declared that we achieved reboot, we didn't come up with an ending for this movie. And so in retrospect, it felt like I really enjoyed what we did do, but I don't think we didn't give it the full reboot treatment.
All right.
I would agree with that assessment just because we did a thing that we've been accused of before, and I think we've dodged those deftly. But this one, it could be said that we did lay a bunch of track and we built half a train, but I don't know that we put the train on the track, and I don't know that the track made a complete loop through Centralville or whatever. You know what I'm saying? I don't think we did the whole thing. We made the infrastructure, but we didn't do the whole thing.
Where we're going, we don't need train tracks.
Ron, you're confusing your reboots.
Oh, yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, I think you're definitely right, guys. We definitely built a great structure and all the meat, and didn't move it to where it made a whole picture. I think so. Yeah.
Well, in the chat,
it's the third act. As Bill was saying.
No, that's the thing. In the chat, Colby just said, "So give us an ending." Wow, just throwing the gauntlet down cold right there.
Maybe we'll get into that.
Absolutely.
There's going to be a section for that.
Yeah, for sure. But before we do that and dive into the plot and the casting and all that, let's talk about where we started with this one. This is an early season 2 episode, but Bill had been trying to avoid doing this franchise since before we shot season 1. Why is that, Bill? Why do you hate Superman so much? No, I'm just kidding.
No, quite the opposite. It's funny because in the chat, Sartak Bandari just said, I watched the Billy Business Superman podcast where producer Bill stated he started to see storytelling through Superman. Would you like to elaborate on that? That's basically the reason why I was kind of avoiding this episode, is like, I have such intense opinions, not only about the character of Superman, but how to adapt the character, what works and what doesn't. I felt like I wouldn't be able to bring the sort of yes and improv mentality into this episode. And to a certain extent, I don't think I did. I think I was pretty quick to shoot down a lot of stuff as we were doing this episode.
Yeah, that happened a couple of times.
Yeah. It did. No, but
that happens a lot of times, and that's because Bill, you've been making stuff for a while, and you have a lot of knowledge and a lot of business acumen as well. So when you combine both those things, having the creative side and the business side, you're going to have you can't help but have a mind that goes, I don't know if a crowd will want that, or I don't know if that goes well with the story, or, et cetera, et cetera. So.
Yeah, and I think the one difference is I do that every episode of Reboot It. Like, I have no problem jumping in to be like, nope, not, we didn't push that far enough. That's not going to work. They already did that over here. That I'm cool with. I think the thing that's unique about Superman is that I feel like my opinions are so well developed that I would be, and I think I was, quick to shoot down stuff that on the surface seems perfectly reasonable, right? And to actually get into like, why don't I think that's going to work? It's like, well, let me lay down my 3,000 word thesis on why Superman should be treated X way. You know, it just becomes unwieldy.
Yeah, and I don't want to defend that, but that's definitely happened to me on the Batman episode. That's happened to some of us on each episode. You know, some of these things that we really hold dear, we clutch to our breasts at night when we go to sleep on our little pillows, and we think about these characters. Sometimes it's a little bit too deep, so that's fine. But yeah, I just felt like overall, and my thing about it, my fault in the whole thing was I think all of us were so looking at the 800-pound gorilla in the room that was Man of Steel and being like dragged around. It's like we had a chain on us and it would occasionally yank us off track just at a whim because we'd have to think about what Zack Snyder did and how we were going to balk against that or be the antidote for that because we're trying to bring this better, lighter Superman and stuff. And that was all necessary. But I feel like it bogged us down a little bit as every plot point we came up with, we had to contrast it to the very natural plot structure of Man of Steel.
And that is super tough because I feel this way about Zack Snyder's Watchmen and I feel this way about Man of Steel. It's like if you lay out the plot beats on paper, right? You just write 2-3 sentences that lay out every beat of the story on paper. It's like, oh yeah, there's a lot of good stuff in there. And in the case of Watchmen, it's like, oh yeah, this is literally the book. But there's just something about when you put together the way he films it with the performances, with the way it's edited, it's like it never hangs together into any sort of cohesive story. And in fact, a lot of time the tone that's achieved is working in almost the exact opposite direction of what the material sort of demands. And so it becomes this weird thing where it's like, we want to lean into these plot beats that all to a certain extent are going to be similar to stuff you've seen in Man of Steel or Batman v Superman. And it's tough because they weren't done well there, but to do them over just for the sake of doing them better also feels like a little bit facile, a little bit unnecessary. So
also, you're giving the bird to somebody.
Yeah,
but also, we did try to. I know the next questions or whatever, but we tried to push past that. And I think as far as the setup, we did push past those limitations, those plot beats that are necessary. I think we did accomplish that. But as the fan said, and as we're going to provide them towards the end of this episode, we didn't exactly give them that capper ending and that capper battle.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and I will say that for me, I'm always excited to do any superhero franchise because I love working with you guys, and I just love talking about superheroes. So, and coming up with ideas that are interesting and would excite me to see on the screen. So, shall we go into the pitch, my friends?
Do it.
All right, let's hear. We got. This is where we got. We decided early that this would be a hard reboot. We're getting rid of Henry Cavill and the DCEU continuity, starting from scratch. We decided this would fit into the continuity of our Green Lantern reboot. We had an argument over whether it should take place before, during, or after Mongol's planet heist. And we finally decided our Superman movie would pick up after the Green Lanterns save Earth from being ripped out of orbit by Warworld. Nobody on Earth really knows what happened, just that the entire planet was almost destroyed with no explanation. So the world would be in a fearful, powerless place, setting the stage for Superman to arrive and reassure everyone that it's all going to be okay. We'd see a kind of panicked arms race between the government's Cadmus project producing sci-fi weapons and the international syndicate Intergang doing the same thing, leading to the creation of Metallo and maybe some version of Bizarro. Lois Lane is on the trial of a conspiracy that ties these two organizations together as an independent journalist and part-time secret hero, Clark Kent. Lois discovers a secret government project. Lois, God, Ron. An alien satellite pulled out of Earth orbit in the 1950s, an information gathering device they called Brainiac. And Clark Kent discovers only one man figured out how to talk to Brainiac, Lex Luthor. The problem? Brainiac talks back. And they realize Luthor has sold out humanity to this hostile alien intelligence in exchange for ultimate cosmic knowledge. And Intergang robs a bank early in the movie using a robot spider device so John Peters can finally see Superman fight a giant spider.
He did demand that. Peters did demand that.
Yeah, so the ending of the story wasn't quite complete, as we talked about. So maybe we can come back to it. How about right now? In a second, after I tell you the cast. Clark Kent, either up-and-comer. God, I can't read today, guys. Sorry about that. Either up-and-comer David Corenswet from the Netflix series The Politician and Hollywood, or, controversially, Adam Driver. I like the Adam Driver one. Lois Lane is Saoirse Ronan. Jimmy Olsen is Gerard Carmichael, a buddy of ours, and would be perfect. Lex Luthor, we said Chris Evans, but maybe we should have said Daniel Day-Lewis or Tom Hanks. Yeah, Tom Hanks, that's an interesting one. And finally, as Metallo, Ron finally gets it, Jensen Ackles.
That was the great triumph of this episode right there.
Yes! To direct, this was one of our more wide-ranging debates, but the strongest contenders were probably Rian Johnson or Robert Zemeckis. So we felt pretty great about this all at the time, but are there any holes we should fill? Does this still hold up? Did we miss anything?
Okay, I'll jump in here. The only thing I'll say is I think the directing pool was a little shallow. I think we're trying to explore so many people, and we were up against it because it was towards the end of a star-spanning episode. So I think when we were really getting down to director, I don't think we gave ourselves enough time to give enough choices. I mean, obviously, the Adam Driver thing, I still like it. I was tractable and remain tractable about it. But I just think there was something attractive to it, the Nicolas Cage of it all. I just think it's interesting direction. Mm-hmm. But overall, they're just a directing pool, I think. The directing pool, because Robert Zemeckis has shown such a beautiful ability to be a human being and to direct human beings, which he has utterly abandoned with all of this weird clay putty people face shit. Since Castaway, there's been a lot of that.
To be fair, though, I mean, he had that phase in his career where he was doing all of the Uncanny Valley CG, but his last two movies, I believe, were Flight with Denzel Washington and Allied with Brad Pitt and Marion Cotillard, and both of which were back to form, just incredibly humanistic, enjoyable, old-fashioned adventure type movies, but with a sort of darker, more mature edge than you would have seen from Zemeckis in the Back to the Future days.
Well, I've definitely got to see that second flick, so I'll reserve judgment. I'm just saying, like, him battling it out with somebody besides Rian Johnson. I just think when we do directors in the future, I'd just love for us to maybe do 3 so people can see it through these different kaleidoscopes. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean,
just kind of like with actors. Like, sometimes we'll get locked in on an actor, and then later somebody will pick something and be like, oh yeah, that's great. I almost feel like we should just get people in the room, and like we always say, throw a rusty stick in there.
I mean, realistically, that's what happens, right? I mean, sure, there's some famous people that maybe somebody wants to go after, but usually you have a bunch of people show up and be like, hey, you may be the next Superman. Let's do a camera test, and then you have Adam Driver and Dave and the dude from Lucifer and Jensen Ackles come in.
I just woke up from a nightmare of a rubber-faced Uncanny Valley Superman, and I was like, no! I threw my Superman sheets off of me in a fit.
Well, look,
I said no.
In the chat, Ian Roth suggests Gina Prince Bythewood. I'm sorry, I don't know the pronunciation of her name. Presumably off the strength of The Old Guard, which just came out on Netflix.
Yeah, I definitely just saw that. I got to see her direct flying. Give her a flying test.
Mm-hmm.
I love what she did with that movie.
Old Guard was fine.
I kind of agree with you on that one, Ron. It was perfectly competent and enjoyable for that.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, absolutely. So, okay, well, I don't know. I guess we got to come up with an ending, guys. How do we end that? A big fight scene between Brainiac and then we throw Lex Luthor off a cliff?
Let me get into something here, because I made mention of this I know, Ed, you had a thought about this too, but I was pretty active in the comments of this original episode, and I made mention of this. But parts of this story sort of hew very closely to the Superman treatment that I had written a while back that I feel like would just make the most incredible Superman movie. And it very much hinged on this idea of like Lex Luthor sort of cracking the Brainiac probe and all that. And the way that ended was that it basically and I think this works so well for Superman, so I'll just pitch this. Brainiac, as a takeoff from his comic book origins, is a probe from a Type 3 civilization. A Type 3 civilization on the Kardashev scale, which is a civilization that makes use of the entire energy output of a galaxy. I mean, just intelligence on the scale that we couldn't comprehend. And they have sent these probes out to just gather information about the entire known universe. And so, the civilization is Kolu, and the name of the probe is Vril Dox, which gets into Brainiac's actual origin, right? And so we just called it Brainiac when we were able to. It's sort of like the Black Knight satellite in conspiracy theories, which is totally fake, but people believe that there's a satellite that's been circling the Earth for 10,000 years, and it's completely radio black, and you wouldn't even know it's up there. So the challengers of the unknown in the 1950s, going deep into the backstory, find this thing, pull it out of orbit, and for 70 years, nobody can communicate with it, but it just sucks in information. It sucks in any sort of signal or light signal that you throw at it, and it's just, they don't know what it's doing, and they can't harm it, and they can't do anything to it. And then Luthor comes in, and he makes contact, and he starts pulling all this information out of it. And in the story that we told, that's feeding Intergang, and it's feeding the Cadmus project, and it's causing this escalation of tensions and destructive capabilities on Earth. In the story, then, it's revealed, and Ron, you did it in your recap there. Not only can Luthor talk to the Brainiac probe, but Brainiac talks back, and Brainiac is this hyper-intelligence. And the thing that Brainiac has figured out is, based on being from a Type 3 civilization with knowledge from across the entire known universe, Brainiac has a mathematical certainty that Earth is doomed, right? You put in all the input that it's been sucking up for years and years, if not centuries. There is a mathematical equation that says the human race will either destroy itself or will become too powerful for its own good and destroy the universe. Those are the only two options for the human race to end. Mathematical certainty. And so Brainiac is going to end the human race before it can threaten the universe. And Superman does not want that to happen. And there's this great to me, this is the definition of hope, right? I am telling you there is no third way. And because he's Superman, he says, I will be the variable. Maybe he doesn't make that decision, but I think in the intensity of his struggle, even in the face of that futility, that is where Brainiac sort of cracks. Superman becomes a variable that it had never seen before, and suddenly the equation breaks down. And yes, there is a whole fight that would go along with that, and ultimately I would want to see something in that third act, like Brainiac's plot pulls the moon out of orbit, and the moon is on a collision course with Earth, and Superman flies and does a loop around the sun to supercharge and comes through and collides with the moon and literally burrows to the center of the moon and moves it back into a sustainable orbit, something like that, right? But underneath it, there's this sort of weird philosophical argument about like the depth of Superman's struggle created a variable that the equation could not predict. And so suddenly the future of the human race is not quite so decided. And so I think within that, Luthor is also sort of driven insane by what he encounters, which is a little bit BVS. But I think you could play that out in subsequent movies. But to me, that's where this ends.
I mean, I like that.
Well, no, I like it too.
I mean, just the visual of Superman pushing the moon, that's like,
I think you need something that
that's like Superman porn.
Well, I want to see like an all-star Superman level feat, right? And like we got the Zod battle was great in Man of Steel for what it was. It was more of the same when they fought Doomsday in Batman versus Superman, and again in Justice League. I want to see, and then Superman Returns was so maligned, rightly so, for like he just boringly lifts heavy things, and that's kind of all you see him do in that movie. I want to see like that super crazy crank it to 11 sci-fi version of Superman, and I think that the way I would do it is that there would actually be a human presence on the moon. There would be a moon base, with human beings working on it. And it's like Superman comes flying at light speed across the solar system, impacts the moon in some great explosion, has to do it in such a way that it doesn't destroy whatever humans are on there, gets to the center and just moves the freaking moon. And then it's like the humans find him sort of crawling out of the crater and he's almost dead. And it's like they try to give him medical attention, but he stands. And in some way in the airless moon, he would have to say, I'm okay. People need help. And then he flies back to Earth having done that. It just, again, that idea of like, I'm going to do something impossible and we're not going to stop to admire how incredible it is. We're just going to move on to continue helping people.
And then I can see a part where like the news has literally got a satellite camera that's watching him do that to the moon, and it's like people are like, he's doing it. Like people are becoming hopeful as he's like they're all in fear for the most part, but then they start seeing the moon move.
You do it as an eclipse.
The hope that creates.
Do it as an eclipse. The moon is blocking out the sun, and then Superman. Totally.
I love all of this, guys. I love all of this.
Oh,
I
don't.
like to no, I do, Johnson, and I'll tell you why. Because everything I'm about to say can go with everything that Bill said. It doesn't contradict anything on one level, except for one thing. I love the tri-level or the third level intelligence jazz. I love that, and I love how smart they are and how they're way smarter than everybody. But I would like to put a tiny loophole in that they think they're so goddamn smart that's why, just like Lex Luthor loses, even though he's smarter than Superman, because he like puts too much on it. I think Brainiac could do that and open himself up. And I think what happens is, after all that shit that Bill just said happens, and a half dead, fucked up Superman crawls out of the fucking moon and says, "Oh, I gotta go save people," which is the best thing Superman should want to do. He wants to go save people. They are over there on Earth, and he's gonna fly over there and save them. And then an exoskeleton hand hits him on the shoulder and slams him into some moon shit. And we have us a good old-fashioned, Superman's a little bit depowered moon fight with Brainiac.
Oh, dude, I love that so much.
And that way we get our fucking giant action. We've already seen how strong Superman is, and he's still getting his ass whooped by this new thing. And my only twist that I would put on it, because I love human fucking beings, goddammit.
Yep.
I think that Brainiac obviously used Lex Luthor and fed Lex Luthor breadcrumbs and made Lex Luthor think that he was a smart one controlling the relationship, but obviously Brainiac really was. And then right at the penultimate moment where Brainiac's about to become the whole world's central computer because of Lex Luthor's bullshit, Lex Luthor goes, "Oh, by the way, bitch, I was playing you the whole time, but you think you're so motherfucking smart? Well, guess what? You're my exoskeleton body now. And I can go beat the shit out of this guy that's been messing my life up for years. I see him with this. He's stopping trains and saving cats, never aging. Screw you. I'm going to put you on and beat his ass with all of your technology."
I love that. I mean, to be honest with you.
Yeah, that's good.
I'm totally down with that. The only thing.
I got a semi right now.
The only thing that I would want to work into that is I have always loved the idea that Lex Luthor is like the ultimate nihilist, right? And I've never really bought the idea that he's so obsessed with Superman that is his only fatal flaw. Like I think just that Superman's always in his way. That's the thing, right?
I don't want to cut you off, Bill, but I think what's built into this thing I just said though is that he the whole movie, we think he's such a nihilist, so obsessed with Superman that he would sell out our planet in order to just beat this alien. But he did not. He did what Batman would do, frankly. He outsmarted the thing, donned its armor, and used it for his own ends so that he can save the Earth from this idiotic alien and this super smart alien. He thinks he's accomplishing both goals by doing. I'm just saying that's what I'm saying. That's how I think this Lex Luthor is thinking. He isn't so much selling our planet to any other intelligence. He's trying to act like he did that and then be the most powerful person on the planet. Once he kills Superman and once he subdued Brainiac, Lex Luthor is the biggest, best, smartest, most powerful, most technologically advanced thing in the world. And perhaps there's some energies flowing through him that makes him, be that super guy that isn't going to be a dumb, fat old man when he goes back to Earth. Maybe he's the best version of himself and all that. He accomplishes all those goals with this, is all I'm saying.
No, I'm totally down with that. I'm totally buying all of that. Yeah, I think I kind of think that's amazing. And I think sort of the three-dimensional chess of it, where it's like Brainiac playing Luthor, playing Brainiac, playing Luthor. And it's like you could really build into the second act of the movie a ton of reversals, but almost in a gentlemanly way, where it's like Luthor and Brainiac just keep sort of subterfuging each other, but they each sniff it out. And it's sort of, but like the last coup de grace, that last grace note is, you think it's Brainiac on the moon about to kill Superman, but it's Luthor wearing the Brainiac suit. And it's like he did get the last laugh. I think that's hilarious. I think that's great.
Yeah. And it would lead into future more Luthor in other
to Geek
series.
Soup's point in the chat. They did do a very much similar thing like that in Brainiac. Brainiac ends up, I think, controlling Luthor more, but Luthor having the power to know what's going on. So yeah, definitely inspired by that. But like to see that on the big screen and to see it be a master move rather than something that the whole series is based on. You know what I'm saying? Like they based the whole section of that show on Lex Luthor having the power of Brainiac behind him.
Yeah.
But like it being a snap move where it's like, you didn't see it coming, baby.
No,
but obviously the people that know would see it coming and they would love it when it happened, I think.
And I think what's also interesting is the way that we set this up is that early in our story, there would be a Metallo sort of built by Intergang using some of this Brainiac technology. And so, you already have like the version 1.0 of like, what does it look like when a human wears a Brainiac technology? But then Luthor shows up at the end and it's like, here's version Omega, bitch. And like, it's just ready to throw down.
Dude, a dummy and a Mark 1 beat Superman's ass for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Imagine a super genius in a, like you said, Mark Omega. Brutal.
No, I think that'd be amazing.
I like some scenes with Luthor being a badass, by the way, too. I don't know how we work those in.
I like it too.
I just want it clear that Luthor isn't some genius who just sits behind a desk. He trains in martial arts. He's Batman-esque. He's a step below Batman when it comes to, say, being as fantastic as a human, but he's like the top that you can be. He's the smartest guy. He's got to be skilled because it's important to him to have his body as fit as his mind. In my Lex Luthor world, that's what I think is important.
In All-Star Superman, he was very much a fitness freak because he was obsessed with his. And I think that's another thing that's built into this thing I just said. If he is a dude that is slightly older than Superman or even the same age as Superman, but noticing that he's aging and Superman isn't, like they posited exactly in All-Star Superman, it's literally dialogue from there.
Yeah,
he's lifting weights, being mad that he's getting crow's feet and Superman isn't, and just the ability to take an alien intelligence and make yourself be super like him and maybe not age and regenerate yourselves with super kryptonite energy. We don't know what the hell these people are capable of. The fact that he would use his mind to defeat one of his enemies and don it, and then beat his other enemy and stuff as part of his immortality quest. Because again, everybody that tries to do a great thing is trying to be immortal. Full stop. Everybody who's ever done anything great is trying to be immortal because they know that this great thing they're doing will last the test of time.
Well, and I think that there's a thread to be carried through sequels then with Luthor, where if you give him this, taste of godhood, basically, then that becomes his single-minded pursuit. And again, I have this all mapped out in my head in a certain way, but it's like that should carry him all the way. To me, the end of all things for a DC universe is like you crib the ending of Final Crisis, right? Where like the fall of Darkseid has basically erased the universe, and now they're in some all-encompassing black sub-basement of existence. But the way I think you do it in a movie is it's just Superman and Luthor basically pulls a Doctor Doom in Secret Wars and is like, I have preserved the last vestiges of godhood in myself. And it's like at the end of all things, there are these two characters and they have the last fight for all of creation, right? And it's like I think that becomes Luthor's arc, is like he is and it's the exact inversion of Superman, right? Superman, a god who becomes a man. Luthor is a man who wants so strongly to become a god. And I think that could actually thematically, even with other characters, carry through a trilogy or more of Superman movies.
Oh, and one last thing on that front, exactly everything you just said. And I think Superman, and this is where we get into the nitty gritty. In Man of Steel, Superman found himself overwhelmed physically and broke the guy's neck to save the people. That's what that Superman did in Man of Steel. In this movie, tired as hell from moving the moon, he has to defeat this dude who is at this point physically superior to him and frankly probably a better fighter, because Lex Luthor with a self-defense class fights better than a farm boy on a lot of levels.
Totally.
So the bottom line is he, just like Zod, is physically superior for that moment at least, whooping his ass. He figures out a way to beat this dude, outsmart him in that vacuum of space, do some hot shit, and get him out of the armor and save him. Superman flying a lifeless Lex Luthor to the med bay at the moon, on the moon base, and saving him.
100%.
Get the fuck, get out of here.
100%, dude. No, 100%.
You know what I mean?
100%. Could not agree more. Also, in the chat, somebody said Tom Hanks delivering all of this third act Lex stuff would be amazing, and it really would. I mean, I was campaigning strongly for Chris Evans as Lex Luthor in the episode, and I still think that everything we're talking about here could work unbelievably. But that Tom Hanks pick is some hot stuff for everything that we're talking about, just because. I mean,
we'll have to make Tom Hanks get in shape.
No, but but here's the thing. So much of it is going to be CGI anyway. It's like you just need his face in the armor, in the close-ups when Superman is like on his deathbed and Luthor leans in close to gloat and it's Tom Hanks. There's just something so weird and amazing about that.
And also, this was the apotheosis of all that. I was thinking they could maybe do some regenerative stuff on him so that he could be he could even get his wish of being younger. But maybe that's a step too far. But the bottom line is, I slipped that Tom Hanks thing in there, and I thought I was just slipping it into my copy. I didn't know I was slipping it into the copy of everybody's script. So but I thought that because everything you're saying. His acting chops and his ability. Somebody was saying something about him that he shows so much goodness on screen that when you see him be a little bad, like Road to Perdition or whatever, it's that much more powerful. 100%. As like, everybody's got that. I don't know about everybody's got that, but I certainly had that dad who was glad-handed everybody outside the house. But when he came in that house, that act ended.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I could see him, maybe Lex Luthor being just like that, like we were describing the Chris Evans conception of the character, or rather our conception of Lex Luthor. Everybody loves this guy, but once he gets into his glass domed place and he's berating his workers and he's orchestrating this and that and the other, he's a totally different person, a driven, focused person.
And I think. Oh, sorry. I was just going to say to that point, Ed. There's been some discussion in the chat about Billy Zane, who I know was like rumored for Luthor in the '90s, and is he too old now? The problem with Billy Zane, it's like, first of all, you're only suggesting him because you've already seen him play an aristocratic bad guy, and you've seen him play a bald guy. But number two, he comes across as so smarmy. Like, you buy him as evil so effortlessly.
Easily, yeah.
You don't get that thing with Chris Evans or with Tom Hanks. Or even to a certain extent with Daniel Day-Lewis, who I know can be really intense, but can also be extraordinarily warm and human. Like, you want a guy playing that role who you don't look at and you're like, oh, that guy, he's a lizard person, which you kind of do with a Billy Zane.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if there was a group of actors that I was going to choose to be a lizard, Billy Zane is one of them. 100%.
But I think it harkens back to that idea of the reason why we all as people get the Batman casting wrong and the Joker casting wrong every single time is it takes a special imagination to be able to see these people doing these things. Every time we've seen a Batman or a Joker get cast, everyone in the universe lost their crap and decided it was bad. Mm-hmm. And most of the times it worked out pretty good. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, although I got to say, I thought Ben Affleck would be fine. People really, what movie did he do that made everyone mad? Is it Geely? Is that the what? Yeah. Everything else he's been in, he's been solid. Like, I mean, sure, a couple times he's basically just kind of maybe possibly played himself, but like, I think he's been fine.
That's movie stars, though. That's movie stars. You're telling me, okay,
Tom Cruise
sucks. John Wayne sucks and is a piece of crap and is a bad example. But that dude had a 50-year career playing the same damn character.
Tom Cruise, for the most part.
Tom Cruise is running through every movie as the same character.
We've had a couple suggestions in the chat. Joaquin Phoenix as Lex. I wanted that back in the Gladiator days, but I think now his public persona has shifted, so he also feels a little snakish, and also he's Joker, so I don't know if that works. Tom Cruise could be an interesting Lex. Ed threw him out there in the episode, but better as Parallax if we're talking a DCEU, which I know we'll get into.
Dude, I mean, him flying planes, looking so effortlessly cool, maybe with a little gray streak, finally acknowledging his age or something, but just like he's the badass pilot and he gets the ring and he's
he's Parallax for sure. For sure. So let's get to some of the comments, guys. By the way, I just want to say that we have achieved reboot.
Well done. Thank you, Ron.
That's the capper.
So we got some fan comics. We're going to look at some of the comments that you guys left. We really appreciate those comments, just so you know. There was a lot of alternate takes and advice on how things should be done in this one. We won't get to all of them, but we tried to pick some of the most concise and interesting. So without further ado, let's start with Nosfonator 87. I'm sure I'm saying that wrong. I love people's names on this. Some people just use their name and some people put some kind of moniker. So step 1, stop being afraid of Superman's goodness. Step 2, adapt Superman TAS versus the Elite or John Byrne run. Step 3, use the Earthling side of Clark, Kryptonian side second.
So I wanted to talk about this comment because this to me is one of those classic fanboy comments that seems, somebody's going to drop it and be like, boom, did it. And that comment is so meaningless. That comment has so little substance to it that it doesn't actually work. So I just wanted to call that out a little bit. Like, number 1, stop being afraid of Superman's goodness. I don't know what that means. You don't know what that means. How does that actually translate to how you're going to structure a story? I don't know. Stop being afraid of Superman's goodness. I don't like the Zack Snyder version of Superman. I don't think he was afraid of Superman's goodness. Like, come on, be a little bit more perspicacious here. Give us a little bit more with what you're saying. Number 2, adapt Superman the animated series, Superman versus the Elite, or what was the other one? Superman,
the John Byrne run.
Oh God, don't even get me started on that nonsense.
We're not going to get started on that because both of us will go off, and this will go off the freaking rails.
Me too.
But again, it's like number 1, why would the multi-million-dollar blockbuster tentpole movie adapt the cartoon from 20 years ago? I think we could do better than that. The Superman versus the Elite story, which actually is from the comics, which was What's So Funny About Truth, Justice, and the American Way, is fine, but also, and we're going to get into this with other comments, I think, that doesn't really wrap your mind around what is the world of the story that you're trying to tell here. Like, that's an established Superman who has to have a relationship with Lois Lane if you're going to do any sort of reasonable adaptation of that story. So that you're just going to drop the audience into that cold, and it like
also
does that work?
I would just like to add just with this one thing, everything you're saying, and just to put a fine point on it, that whole thing is more or less, correct me if I'm wrong, but kind of the aesthetic at least of the Kingdom Come Superman, who is like, I am not necessarily that damn old, but I am established. These young bucks are doing super people stuff wrong.
Yes.
So we have to establish a world where there's been super people for hella years, and Superman's doing it right, and these guys are doing it wrong. And we have to set all of that up in one movie.
Yeah,
that's a hard reboot of the. If this was later, maybe, but not the first movie of a new thing.
Right.
I'm just saying one last thing. That's doing the same mistake that they've been doing, which is set some of these characters at the end of their journeys. Setting Batman at the end of his journey at the beginning of that universe was a master stroke of failure. I would not want to do that with Superman.
It applies to Superman too, though. It's like they wanted to get to the death and return of Superman storyline so quickly that they didn't actually put the legwork into making it matter to the world of the story. And then you get to Justice League and they want to start with that big portentous montage at the beginning, like, oh my God, it's so tragic that Superman's dead, when it's like, he's barely been around. We have no context for what the world actually thought of him in the moment. It's just now there's this retrospective and look at how important it was. It's like, number one, that wasn't a great story to begin with, the death and return of Superman, but it's only going to land with this is an exaggeration, but in the comics, right, 70 years of content behind it. It's like when that's your second movie out the gate, I don't know.
70 years or 4 movies.
Right.
And look, and I'll admit that I was one of those guys for a long time. But I'll tell you why I get where this guy's coming from in a little bit, in a small amount. And that's because you're so disappointed by a lot of the live action movies that you get with Superman that when you watch these cartoons that just get it right, you go, oh, well, they got it right. That should just be a film. But they got it right because you have the knowledge of all the comics that you've read of Superman, of the 70 years of history of Superman being a great hero, so that when he is in this situation with the Elite or any of the other things that we've seen, it really does like feel great. But yeah, you cannot just jump into that. Like for most people, even people who are baseline Superman fans from just the movies would still not quite understand where that goes. So yeah, get your shit together. No, I'm just kidding. That's
no, but we love comments. We love comments, period. But like comments like that, the drop the mic ones, please do more of those. Drop more mics on us so that we can have Bill do an Eminem on your ass. I don't know. Because yeah, it's just one of these things where even our whole genre, this whole genre of stuff that we're doing is we're trying to, I think a lot of times trying to stay away from that. Like we solved everything. So I like the fact that even when we achieve Reboot, we're not saying that we wrote a whole screenplay that is workable. Some of the people in the comments go, yeah, they should just do what you guys did. We made a structure, but we didn't sit down there with our tongues out writing every scene, and we're not pretending we did that.
Totally.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
I would also like to say that I do understand what this guy is saying about stop being afraid of Superman's goodness, but I don't think that's what he actually means to say. I think it's what we are trying to portray, which is stop being afraid of Superman being an unrealistic hopefulness. Because in a lot of people's mind, Superman would never be this guy who brings hope and joy to people by literally helping them out, by sacrificing himself, by being the kind of giving person that he is.
Right.
And so that's what I think he's referring to when he's saying that comment. I could be wrong, but
also, I agree that what he's trying to articulate as well is the freaking dour filter as on Zack Snyder's movies. He's trying to combat the dour filter.
Right.
I get that.
Yeah, and I think the reason it rubs me the wrong way is because, I just think that there's a more nuanced way to talk about that. Like, I totally agree, Ron. I want to craft a movie where Superman is almost stupid in his optimism. Almost, I mean, not even almost, but completely unrealistic in the depth of his belief in other people. And I think what that entails, though, and we did it in the episode, and we were just doing it again when we were talking about the ending, is you have to be really cognizant of sort of the world in which you put him and the tone that you're trying to achieve. Because not even unfortunately, I just think it's the reality that if you want to tell a Superman story where he is almost stupid in his optimism, you kind of have to put him up against a somewhat messed up world, right? And so this idea that you're going to make a Superman movie and everything is going to be like a cheery 1930s fairy tale, I don't think that lands. It's more about you have to separate the character and his beliefs and his actions from what you're trying to say about the world around him. And the contrast, I think, is where you get the message of like Superman's inherent goodness trumps all. But again, it's just more nuanced than being like, don't be afraid to make him a good guy. It's like, come on, man. That doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's get on to the next one. We got Roshan Nesbith. I apologize if I mess up your guys' names, just so.
Or if you mess up the word apologize.
Yeah. I apologize. That's what we're doing today. I really want a Superman movie with no origin story. Have Clark Kent as an investigative journalist who is writing a story about a mysterious killing / disappearance in Metropolis, and he goes as Superman, investigating and saving lives. Make the villains be Toyman and Parasite. Also make Clark Kent / Superman more human by focusing more on Clark's human side, and have his Superman persona be second. Plus, I would so love for us to see Clark Kent's religious / faith. Let that be his inspiration to be more Christ-like as Superman.
All right. Well, before
I'm sorry to make that a question.
I put this one in here just for me and Ron, and just to make Ed uncomfortable. No.
Oh my God. It's not even, and it's not even the dissing of the faith angle, because honestly, I do think that overall Superman would be somebody who believes in himself. And I think it's not that he would think that he was a god, but I think the one thing that is Christ-like about him that I wish Zack Snyder had have actually keyed on, because it's obvious that he sees Superman as a Christ-like figure. But I would have just loved to see, just like, if you think about it, that is a neat way to look at Superman, i.e., I have all this lineage and all this responsibility just by existing. Now, I could wander off and be seduced by all types of stuff, or I could stay the course and be good, because me being good changes the course of the entire world / universe. And that's why it's important for me to be good, and me being good also, like in the Old Guard movie, which I think is unnecessarily maligned, but like in that,
I wasn't
that movie,
maligning it.
If you save people, it impacts upon the timeline of the world.
Yeah.
You literally save whole realities when you save people. You cause new realities when you save people, especially at the level at which Superman saves people.
Yep.
So it's like a huge responsibility. I would love him seeing it that way. Maybe not so much with the kissing up the crucifix like some kind of Italian and Queens or something. I think it'd be okay for him to be not necessarily theistic, but definitely have a theistic level of responsibility over the earth.
Well, it's interesting, Ed, because I think everything that you're saying, I agree with. And I think the problem, though, with thinking about it too much as being Christ-like is that you end up substituting iconography for motivation. And so it's like, yeah, the Zack Snyder movies wanted to present Superman as Christ-like, but in practice, all that meant was like doing crucifix poses, images of him with sunbeams coming down over him, and then having him die in a pieta. But like, if you actually got into everything you were saying, which to me, I've always chosen to see as more Gandhi-like, right? Like, I am a man who understands that the only way to change the world is to be the change I want to see in the world. And I make a choice that dedicating my life selflessly as possible to this ideal is the best use of my life. And so I completely abandon the idea of living a normal life. I completely abandon the idea of living a life with selfish pursuits. And I know you can argue, how good was Gandhi? That's a well-worn argument. But in the ideal view of him, I think that that's great. And it's everything that I was talking about too. It's like, make Superman a guy who understands that service and selflessness are the ultimate purpose. Totally down with that, but leave all the religious iconography, the imagery by the wayside. It's been done to death, and it's often done with no understanding to the substance, which I think bothers me.
And I don't know, I mean, I guess you could make an argument that Ma and Pa Kent might have been religious, being from Kansas and farm people, but I never felt like that was a thing that existed with them. It was more about like being good people. And I guess, arguably you could say that's religious, but I don't think that's religious because I'm not religious. But, it's just one of those things where like, I don't want to see whoever I don't want to see Adam Driver even do a big speech about Jesus and God and how he's going to be like that because of Jesus and God. Like I don't need any of that.
Well, we've
personally.
belabored that part of the comment. What was the other thing they said?
The other thing was trying to just, I mean, it sounded like basically make the movie like an episode of Lois and Clark. Like make it all about
the Toy Man and Parasite.
Toy Man and Parasite, investigative journalist Clark Kent, trying to figure out murders that are happening in Metropolis, and then downplay the Superman side of everything. Tell a story about Clark.
I was gonna say I'd have a fun season of a TV show with that. I could see that like as a TV show for a one season. That would be a fun, lighthearted TV show that I would probably have an okay time with, but I don't see that as a big grand show who Superman movie is.
Well, and also one thing, this is my thing about the Parasite, and I get it, but like to me, it's another version of the kryptonite problem. Not problem, but another version of the kryptonite issue, or whatever you want to call it. It's Parasite is this guy who, when he gets around powerful people, he sucks off their energy, and he gets more powerful. Thusly, the more he sucks off you, the weaker you are to defeat him and wrest this power away from him. He's a very classic Superman villain because he accomplishes the kryptonite sort of thing and draws power to become a big threat from Superman. He gets powers and shit, as he's eating Superman's energy. I really get that, but I think for a movie, I think that's why we end up going back to the well of Lex Luthor's and stuff like that. Because for Superman to fight something for 2 hours, it's gotta be bigger than that. Parasite gets solved in the first act of a Superman movie I would write.
I think you could make Parasite a movie-worthy villain, but it would require a heavy amount of reinvention. And I think that gets to the point that like what you're basically like, take the Superman out of it, right? Take the fealty to the character out of the equation, and it's like, well, people want to see it because it's Superman. What if it wasn't? Now you're writing a story about an indestructible man who's trying to solve murders in a city. And it's like, okay, not necessarily a bad premise for a story, but how does that play out as a story? That to me, that feels smaller than Hancock, right? And like Hancock was basically this Superman story that was very much about like 3 people and like messed up feelings of inadequacy. If you're going to tell me the story about an indestructible reporter trying to solve murders, again, I don't think that's that's going to necessarily make a bad movie, but like, does it feel like a summer blockbuster starring Superman? And like just slapping the tights and the iconography on top of that doesn't solve that problem.
Well, but I do understand the impulse to try to suggest stories of that manner, though, because again, I saw 3, I guess, movies with Henry Cavill Superman in it. I don't know that fool's favorite color. Does he eat cornflakes for breakfast? Does he go out to his mail in his bare shoes? What does he watch on TV? What fascinates Clark Kent? Mm-hmm. You don't know none of this because it wasn't in that movie. There was nothing about who Clark Kent is in any of those movies. For something that was so serving of that character and built around that character, you never get to see who he is as a person or a Superman.
Right. Yeah, I mean that's.
I could see people.
No, and I totally get that. I'm on board with that. Yeah, there's a certain reactionary sense of like, show me a story where the character is actually driving the action as opposed to being sort of just this passive reactive force who just has to like react against things that are happening. So I get that.
Yeah. And you also have to have a reason why they're solving crimes. Like, I mean, why does he want to solve crimes? Like that's who he is. That's why, where did that come from? I mean, it's still fun. I get where you're coming from. And I love Toy Man as like a guy that Superman catches just because he's funny sometimes. He's got this goofy things. Of course, he's also murdering people with those toys a lot of time. But hey, I like him. I see him as a heist guy, like a guy who's trying to steal stuff and make money. But that's not like a good story. That's like an episode, like in a cartoon.
We agreed this is an episode.
Okay.
Right, what's the next
Anyways,
one?
All right.
This was very short one. Robert Reigns. Rebooted in the 40s. No.
I don't like. Yeah, that's my answer too. No. We got into this a little bit with the Fantastic Four episode. This seems to be a chorus among fans that like well, he's such an old-fashioned character, just make it a period movie and that's going to solve your problems. I bet that could be interesting for a movie, but also like this character is the man of tomorrow. The entire point of the character is like he's trying to be a beacon into a new and better future. It's like you could do better than just say, well, that idea is so old-fashioned it needs to happen in the 1940s. You could do better.
I don't have anything to add to that. I don't think anybody else does. What's the next question?
Super Abe Sapien says, y'all had me till y'all started trying to cross over characters already. I just want a dope-ass classic style Superman movie. Sigh.
Well, and to be fair to us and to the commenter, that was drifting into that direction with the whole being tied to Green Lantern stuff, which me and Bill had a fervent argument about that you can watch on the episode. All that is well and good, but I do believe with the solves that we did for the third act, I think a lot of the interconnectivity having to be there is eliminated. I think Superman's quite busy on the moon doing a lot of stuff, getting his ass beat. There's a lot of things happening in this story now that would not require so much interconnectivity. So I think that part of the question is resolved. And I do hope that person is watching this episode to see that.
I mean, even also, in the original episode too, I think we kind of got away from it. Sorry, Ron.
No.
I was going to say, is this one of those comments where someone pauses and they didn't finish the episode?
No. It was a little bit vague, and we've squashed all vagaries. So, and I think we squashed most, if not all of them, in the episode. But now they're all the way squashed. So cool.
Yeah. All right. Cool.
All righty.
Go ahead. Anything else?
I just wanted to say, and maybe this goes without saying, but I'll say it anyway. Like, I think Green Lantern Superman is a great 1-2 punch as sort of the entry into our version of the DC universe, because the Green Lantern movie is very much like implacable forces from beyond the stars have sort of grazed Earth, and it gets everybody's hackles up. But the Superman movie then becomes Earth's first encounter with something that is directly targeting it and affecting it, not just sort of in that passive way of I'm here to kill you, but has been manipulating everything around us. And so coming out of that movie, we feel like the ground that we're standing on is not solid, right? Which I think sets up a lot of interesting motivations for future stories.
Yeah, I agree with that all the way.
Cool.
Awesome. So then we got Sandra Nelson. Love the show without a doubt, but after some binging, I would like to see producer Bill be a little more open. I understand the point of this is to try to make something that would actually succeed if released, but there are times where it seems like if he doesn't like something, it's not going to happen. It gives off an impression of him saying, I know more than you, even if he does know more. I gotta say something right now. I want to say this. Bill chose these comments, so I think I want to point out that that's the kind of guy Bill is. He can take criticism and he is willing to move on things. I'm just going to defend him, but go ahead, Bill.
No, I mean, I understand, certainly after watching, because like I feel that way a little bit after watching back our Superman episode. Like I was just way too heavy-handed slapping down everything. That said, I don't know if I feel that way about myself in any of the other, maybe the Matrix episode, because I was also coming down pretty hard in that Matrix episode. But beyond that, I feel like I try to bring into these conversations, the screenwriter Craig Mazin, who co-hosts the Script Notes podcast, talks about like when he gives people notes, it's not just, hey, give me notes on this thing. It's like, okay, do you want me to just make you feel good? Do you want me to give you general suggestions? Or do you want me to actually treat this like a writer? And actually treating it like a writer means I'm going to be as savage toward you as I am toward me in my own head when I'm trying to break a story. And while I never try to be a dick, I am always bringing that third mentality into these conversations because, like the point is, let's steel sharpen steel, as I've heard Ed say many times. Like, let's try to make these things as good as possible. If we're not doing that, I don't know what we're doing here. So if I'm bogarting a conversation, I totally get that because everybody here has good ideas and I want to give everybody a chance to talk. But like, I don't know. The idea that like I have good ideas and I'm right a lot of the time, but I'm coming down too hard. I don't know how to reconcile that in a different way than what I currently do. I don't know.
Well, yeah. I mean, I would say, as somebody who has been in my normal life accused of being very much like, look, I've explored all the options. I've picked the best one. Shut up and let's move on. You know what I mean? That's kind of my personality on a lot of levels in regular life. So I can understand thinking that you have the best idea and wanting to just kind of, or thinking that we don't have a good idea yet. Because I've seen certain episodes that have been saved by Bill's propensity to go, that isn't even an idea yet, guys. You act like we can move on. That's not anything. He goes to get the ice cream. So what? What's the complication? Why does he want the ice cream? What did his dad do? You know, he comes with all these perspectives trying to make things stronger, and that can feel like an attack in the moment. It can feel like an attack or over stridency in certain. The Matrix episode is a little overboard, but for the most part,
I agree.
And maybe and. In the G.I. Joe episode, it was bordering on overboard because you weren't being contributive in your destroying of certain of the whacknesses of G.I. Joe, I felt. But then you came with the prodding towards the end that made me go say the stuff I said, and I think that saved that episode. So again, I agree that it's like pressure points. It's like, you know, back in the old comics, we read the martial artists and they fight each other. If I push this pressure point too far, the guy will die. If I push it just right, he'll be in a coma for 3 days and remember the Batman. That's kind of Bill. That's kind of me. That's kind of Billy. That's kind of you. That's kind of all of us. Is like it's just that line. We could get up to that line of killing somebody with our personalities, but overall, I feel like we're doing death touches. I feel like we're doing a good job.
Again, I think all of us have certain skills that help push and add to each other's skills. You know, exactly. Bill isn't going to let something be incomplete or not have a point and not make sense and not have a through, like, you know, it's not going to let that happen. Ed's not going to let something happen that doesn't like that isn't not exciting, that isn't a twist or something fun. I'm going to make sure that there's a human element. Billy is going to want to know that there's a through line. Like, we all have stuff that that we push each other on, and by pushing each other, I think we get better with that. I mean, half the reason we've talked about this a couple times, but it's half the reason I decided to start learning to get better. And you talk about, like, as a writer wanting to break down things. Well, I sent the first novel I wrote to a bunch of people, and there were a couple of people who were like, yeah, that was fun. But then there was other people who were like, dude, there's no conflict in this. Like, this character just is like, has a good time having powers, and then, like, where is this? Like, why is he doing this stuff? Like, that's important.
And what's good is when when Bill does it, and when any of us do it, when it's about, hey, stories in general work a certain way. Stories in general have certain requirements.
Right.
This is not meeting some of these requirements. That's one thing. It goes overboard in Bill's case, my case, your case, Billy's case, anybody's case, when it's just a matter of taste.
Right.
When it is just, I must make this to my taste. I must. Every time we've had too much conflict in these episodes, it's usually because one of us is accusing the other of making it all about their taste and being intractable on that. So as long as we avoid those things and have the backup of, no, this in general, I would like to see Superman beat somebody's ass on the moon. I would love to have him have a philosophical conversation about it and then beat somebody's ass on the moon. And that's,
and you saw my reaction. Like, you came in with that right after I was talking about the philosophy of it all. And my reaction was like, hell yeah, because I understand like that is a great addition. Yeah, absolutely.
It's additive. When we're doing additive stuff, we'd never have any problems. It's always when there's something subtractive or something intractable. Subtraction messes us up.
Yeah, makes sense.
And it's overall, it's very rare.
Absolutely. So let's get to this next guy, Alden Diaz.
I like this. Lewin. Inside Lewin Davis. Yeah, it's a Coen Brothers movie.
Deemed Ben Solo in TROS without even one line of dialogue. He's a genius actor. Sign him, Peters.
I love keeping up the kayfabe at the end. Can I say that?
Yeah, me too.
I will say also there was a setting problem there. I think, Ron, you read most of that to no avail. I think it came out quiet in the in the broadcast, but it is it is. Everybody saw it. You could read it yourself. We are... oh, wait. I think everybody's down. Yeah, everybody's saying we're back. So,
oh, good.
Yeah, no. So,
should I read that comment again?
Definitely don't. It's a very long comment, but
but it was good.
Yeah, I mean, it's. We had a couple people who were saying Adam Driver was an inspired choice, and all credit goes to Ed for suggesting Adam Driver as Superman.
Yeah.
That seemed to be a thread throughout the comments, and this one was, I think, the most articulate and eloquent, but basically saying that combination of like being both imposing and powerful, but also a little bit goofy, and being someone who takes his acting very seriously and can sort of seamlessly transition between a Clark Kent and a Superman, say, is just perfect for the character. So I just wanted to give some love to the people with that opinion.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and just I don't want to stroke myself any more than it's already been stroked. It's very great that people agree with that. I just feel like, again, it goes back to my concept of like, we just get some people in the room and have it battle it out. And I would love for Adam Driver to be in that room, because I think, but despite looks and this different stuff, there's a power and an ability to make himself into stuff. I've seen him in roles where I know I could whoop his ass. I've seen him in roles where that character he's playing, I could whoop that character's ass. Mm-hmm. And there are certain roles that he plays where I'm like, hell no. I would never walk up on that dude on any level. He's got, it's a weird correlation, I know, but he's got a little Joe Pesci to him. Joe Pesci is one of the only actors I've ever seen where I could believe he could beat me up, but I could also believe I could beat him up. Because in just how he's acting, how he's stupid. Tony Spilotro from Casino, you think you can beat that guy up. Maybe you can beat up the old Gray Streaks Reed Richards version of him, but you can't beat up that young whippersnapper at the beginning of the movie. You can't. Yeah, no, and I totally agree with that. And I think if you only know Adam Driver from Star Wars and maybe from Inside Llewyn Davis, you gotta watch some of his other stuff, because the guy has incredible range. And I said it in the original episode, but watch The Report, which is about the CIA torture report. It's on Amazon Prime. He is Clark Kent. He is sort of this upstanding guy pushing back against forces of corruption, who's on a single-minded mission to get at the truth. Like, he is so Clark Kent in that movie. It's unbelievable. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm going to check that out. What was it called again?
The Report on Amazon Prime.
Awesome. The Report at Amazon Prime.
And he even wears glasses.
Okay, you guys, we got one more comment.
All right.
And it's from Mr. Nicholson, I assume Jack Nicholson. That Tom Cruise's parallax moment, I loudly agreed. My wife looked at me like a crazy person when I very loudly yelled, "Damn, that's effing amazing." And then she stared even more when I told her why I was cheering.
I love that, frankly.
Yeah. Tom Cruise's parallax, it's just...
Again, and like I saw there was some, when we brought it up before, there was some activity in the chat about it. And I just want to say that, our Green Lantern establishes a world where it's Jon Stewart and Kyle Rayner as the Green Lanterns from Earth. And both Sinestro and Hal Jordan are something that happened in the past, right? So that's in our continuity, they're gone. And I think Hal Jordan would be considered dead. Like, that's Jon Stewart's sort of long lost partner, in our continuity. And so on the auspicious, or on using Tom Cruise in the same way that Avengers Endgame used Josh Brolin, right? You bring Tom Cruise in to play Parallax in a Justice League movie that can also have some flashbacks to his time with Jon Stewart as a Green Lantern, and you just get the whole Hal Jordan era out of the way.
Yep.
I would also say, well, I don't want to get too far into how we would do that because that might be the conversation when we get into Justice League, but I just think that is an amazing setup for a DCU scale villain. Use Tom Cruise as the over-the-edge Hal Jordan. I just think it'd be amazing.
Yeah. I agree with that, and I agree that as we would build our super movies, we are introducing different cosmic threats. We are telling people, much in the same way that Marvel did, that there is a larger cosmic universe, and it is going to be more and more impacting on Earth. And there's going to be more and more stuff that just like everything does, this planet is ripe for the pickings. Everybody knows about us throughout the universe, and they know we're dangerous. That whole thing. But you got to do that because the status quo that we have right now in real life is there aren't any aliens. There's no Thanos coming to get us. It's all speculative. And just to build a world where none of that stuff is speculative anymore, that there are Amazon ladies, that there are super guys, that there are Green Ring people, there are Flashes. We're going to have to change the world. We're going to have to build a world that can support a villain that harms everybody and has a lineage through everybody. He's a cosmic character like Superman. He's a cosmic character like Green Lantern. He's doing stuff in the past. Maybe Wonder Woman encountered him. He's somebody that is part of the weave of the universe, and him turning on everybody is even huger than Thanos, actually, if you think about it.
Oh, very much so. I mean, that's what I love about the idea of using Parallax as a Justice League villain, because it is a story that we have not seen before. And who knows what the next phase of the MCU is going to give us, but this idea of the ultimate big bad is one of us who's gone over to the dark side. And not sort of in the Mission Impossible 2 way, where it's like this guy, I think you get more pathos rather than just play him as like the disgraced former superhero who washed out of being a hero and sort of everybody has a bad taste in their mouth about him. It's like, no, you play him as a guy who had a heroic death and sacrifice, who is like a legend that everybody who knows about him at least remembers very fondly. And then to a certain extent is willing, or at least willing to consider everything he says when he comes back and says the universe needs to be remade and I am the one to do it. I just, that could be so awesome.
And big and cosmic.
Yeah.
Like we all like.
And lastly's last, the heroism of a villain trying to do stuff like that. I mean, the heroic notion in their head is what I mean. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think it lands better than Thanos because it is not this external threat that, we've never met before and is very easy to rally against, right? It becomes, this is our own thinking, our own ideology taken to its logical conclusion by one of us. And so how do we reconcile that?
And also maybe this is getting into it for real, but we have to figure out some kind of way for the Earth Green Lanterns to show in our movie that we did, and also in another movie to really cement it, that he's revered like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like he's a revered guy. Maybe he went off to the Delta Quadrant for a while because of some great tragedy or some great failure or something to kind of move us towards yes, he's great. Yes, he's super powerful. Yes, he's over a sector of space, or he's lost and now he's coming back, but with a little damage, and start building him up as a good guy so that when he does turn bad, it means something. So we don't Steppenwolf ourselves.
I mean, you could even make Green Lantern 2 sort of the search for Hal, right? If Sinestro comes back, think about this. Sinestro comes back to be the villain, and there's just a hint that Hal might be alive, and it's almost like that twist at the end of the original Ring, where it's like they go through all this rigmarole to free the guy, to try to get him out of whatever black hole prison or whatever he's in, and it's like, oh my God, we're bringing back Hal, and then it's like, wait, Hal wants to kill everybody. Oh no, end of movie.
That's awesome.
So
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, we just achieved reboot for Green Lantern 2.
Well, even if it's hinted like the end of the Thriller video. You know, he just turns to the camera and Vincent Price goes, Maybe he's got a little bit more going on besides the basic PTSD of being trapped in an interdimensional prison.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
Yeah, baby.
That's how we do it, you guys. So let's I guess that's it, right? Yeah. I mean, we didn't get to everybody's comments, but we appreciate you guys being involved, letting us know what you think, coming up with ideas with us, even when we disagree with them. We love to hear them. So
looking into the chat real quick, this whole idea of Scarlet Witch becoming the big bad of the MCU, kind of on a similar track as what we're talking about with Hal Jordan, would be awesome. I hope they don't do that, because the MCU just keeps taking all of the potential plot points that could make the DCU awesome. So we'll see.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
Absolutely. And I just want to say, of all the reboots, I don't think we got to what I think Bill said is overall. My overall feeling about the episode is I do concur that we didn't quite get to the meat of all the stuff we were able to provide you in this episode. It'd be funny if this was one of the more popular rebooted rewinds, because it's like even more additive than normal. You know, it's like we really did achieve reboot in this one. But I love all that. But like what we laid down to me was integral to why we should care about this Superman. I think that part we did pretty well. And I think it was a challenge to not do a origin story again. So for laying down an origin story that isn't an origin story, you know, and doing the 2, 3, 4, 5 villains, we put so many damn villains in here, but they all work. They're incremental steps for our Superman to show acumen. You know what I'm saying? A lot of that stuff was really good. So I think that's what enabled us to slam the point home in this episode. So watch these as companion pieces, and I think it's a unique experience.
Totally agree.
Well, as usual, I loved it.
You got Jensen Ackles, which we didn't belabor in this, but you got Jensen Ackles playing Metallo,
and I think he actually would. I think he really would be good. So that actually worked out great.
Agreed.
So,
so that's it, guys. That's for Reboot Ryan. Reboot, rebab. Blah, blah, blah. I am so sorry. Today is a day of me being like blah, 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 blah. But look, guys, it's the pandemic. I stay up till 5 a.m. I slept for 5 hours and got up to do this. I love you guys. So that does it for Reboot Rewind. On behalf of myself, Ron Swallow, Ed Greer, producer Bill, and the Missing Billy Business, we want to thank you for watching and being part of this special community we built here. We love you guys. We love your comments, and we'll all see y'all next time. Bye.
Bye.